everybody. It feels so good to be sitting down and filming another video for you guys. I just want to say thank you so much for all the positivity on my last video. It really does mean a lot to me. I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed that video. There will be more story times coming about my haunted house and other paranormal story times. And for those of you that are looking forward to my visiting abandoned places videos, those are coming very soon, I promise. I'm so excited, so stay tuned for those. Make sure you subscribed if you aren't already, so that way you can tune in whenever I post a new spooky video. I'm going to dive into some urban legend. So the urban legend I decided to dive into today is going to be focusing on skinwalkers. Now, if you don't know what a skinwalker is, I will put some pictures up right here to show you. A skinwalker is basically a person or a witch with the ability to transform into any kind of animal. Some can also steal the faces of other people and can appear as someone that you may know. So it's not just animals, they can also transform into other people. Now, it can be really scary if you hear a skinwalker speak in the voice of someone you know, because it will sound like that person to a degree, but it will also sound very eerie and kind of off balance in a way. Now, most people are familiar with the story of the rake that was derived from creepypasta. Although the rake is supposedly not true, many people have had experiences of seeing creatures that resemble the rake. If you don't know what the rake is, I will insert a picture here. This is probably the most famous picture of the rake. People have seen it all across the United States. There are many stories. I won't be diving into the rake too much, but if you want to Google some stories about it, it's actually pretty fascinating. But the amount of people that have experienced this just makes us wonder if maybe the creepypasta was inspired by some truth. If you like these kinds of videos, just let me know in the comments, and also comment some other urban legends that I could possibly do in the future. And without further ado, we'll just get right on into it. So the legend of skinwalkers actually originates from a Native American tribe called the Navajo. In the Navajo language, the word skinwalker actually translates in their language as he who walks on all fours. And while they can take on many forms, many people describe them as looking like hollowed out dog-like animals. Okay, so now I'm going to be diving into some stories that were told by different people that have experienced what they believe to be as skinwalkers. My uncle is Mexican and Native American. This happened in Mojave Desert in Southern California. He was driving around with his girlfriend late at night and they saw something that looked like a huge black dog on the side of the road. He slowed down and the dog began crossing the road. Instead of walking like a normal dog would, this thing moved like a toy rocking horse. He said it stopped in the middle of the road and stared right at them, and its eyes had a red glow. My uncle is the most badass person I know, and it scared the crap out of him. So this happened about 12 years ago. My family owns a farm in the heart of an Indian reservation. One winter, I was home for Christmas taking care of the farm while my parents were away Christmas shopping. As I was home by myself, way late in the night, and I hear all our cows freaking out. I knew it had to be the wild dogs that were rampant in the area. So I throw on some boots and grab a shotgun, load it up, and head out to the field. This was a perfect scenario for a horror movie. It was cloudy, but there was a full moon and it was breaking through the clouds just right to light up all the snow. I ran out into the middle of the field, and just in time I see two dogs. They were standing up facing each other and fighting. I think, perfect, 2 for 1. So I pump a shell into the chamber of my 12 gauge, and then it happened. The two dogs heard the rack. They both stopped, looked over at me, and ran away on their back legs. Immediately, I froze, and every ghost story about skinwalkers and all the other native legends I grew up with flew through my mind. Keep in mind, I am a white guy, and up until then, these were all just boogeyman stories the native kids like to tell to scare us. That night, they became real to me. I was spending a month with my cousins at my grandma's house. It was August, and my cousins' ages ranged from 10 to 15. I was the oldest, being 15. I was staying with a 10, 13, and 14-year-old. We stayed up telling scary stories often, but one night a few weeks in, we decided to make a campfire out back. My grandma's house is in a rural suburb. The neighbors aren't too far when you're driving down the road to her house, but in the backyard, it's thick forest with paths through it. Each house is on a hill, so only part of the basement was actually underground. That isn't important until later though. So we're towards the east side of her yard in a smallish patch of open land. You couldn't see the neighboring yards from there, and there was probably 3/4 of a mile to each side of us that belonged to my grandma. It was maybe 11 at night, and we were playing truth or dare. After telling scary stories, and my 14-year-old cousin dared me and the 13-year-old to go walk through the paths for 10 minutes or so. I said yes right away, as I wasn't easily scared and rather level-headed, but my younger cousin was a bit more hesitant. We didn't bring a flashlight because it wasn't pitch dark yet, and we could see enough to not die. We were walking through the paths for about 5 minutes, and we could barely see the fire through the trees when we decided to turn. In the middle of the path was a large dog-like creature, hunched over with its front hands an inch from the ground. What I remember most was how its eyes were so fucking bright white, and it was humanoid dog shaped with a human-like head but a dog-like body, but human hands and feet. It looked right at us, and I know I was paralyzed with fear as it dashed away the opposite way from us. Eventually, my cousin and I screamed bloody effing murder, and the other cousins and my grandma ran to us. I don't remember much here because I was really disoriented and I couldn't think properly. But I did wake up in bed, so I assumed that I was brought up to the house. All the kids slept in a basement in a big room with sliding glass doors to the outside, as the room was on the side that wasn't underground. My bed was pressed against a big glass window, and I could see my cousins playing outside down below. The house is in Michigan, so it gets slightly chilly, even in the end of August, and there was a slight breeze, so I put on my jacket and ran to join them outside, skipping breakfast, not wanting to miss out on anything fun. When I got down, I could tell they weren't playing, but rather running to get my grandma. Her dogs, both of them, were dead. Ripped up. That night we went to bed early. I woke up at maybe 2 in the morning because I felt something hit my head. My cousins were all sitting on the double bed opposite me on the other side of the room. There was one bunk bed and 2 double beds. The double beds for me and my 14-year-old cousin. They were being quiet and staring at me. The 13-year-old nodded his head toward the window. I froze. They all looked afraid. I turned my head slightly to the side and I saw a really messed up looking face pressed to the window with gaping eyes looking down at me. I screamed so fucking loud and it bolted. My grandma called the police after I told her what happened and they found nothing. I went home after that and I have never been there during the night again. I decided to join my best friend Karen for a 3-day stay at her grandmother's place on the res. Her grandmother lives near a place called Tuba City, Arizona, in the middle of nowhere but surrounded by rural homes. We go to college together and I was kind of interested to know about Navajo tradition. The first day we stayed, it was pretty chill. Nothing out of the ordinary, but her grandma, not that old, around 67, said that a stray dog came out of nowhere and wouldn't leave. To me, it did act kind of strange and ugly looking. Black, shaggy coat, looked like a mix between a German Shepherd and a lab. That night, we were watching a movie in the living room. Had big windows that looked out into the front where the cars were parked. Nothing fancy. Grandma was in the kitchen cooking dinner and we were watching a movie. Next to the window is a medium bookshelf where the DVDs are kept. Karen went to put back a DVD we had just watched, but she freaked out because that stray black dog was staring at us through the window, standing on top of the wood box outside. Not something normal dogs do from my point of view or hers. Usually my dog, which is a house dog, scratches the door to be let in. Res dogs aren't dogs, and dogs inside houses are frowned upon in Navajo tradition, meant to protect the house and the owner. The other dogs seemed to stay away from it. Karen opened the door and yelled at it to get off the box. It ran behind the shed. We went to Tuba City to get some groceries, came back to the house. The dog was nowhere to be seen. Nothing unusual. Grandma went to visit some people, so it was just Karen and I. About 5 o'clock, we heard someone trying to open the door. Both of us looked out since there had been no car heard and no dogs barking. looking out the living room window to the door, and there was a dog trying to open the door with its paws. Two paws wrapped around the brass doorknob, standing on its hind legs. I thought that was weird, but wasn't really freaked out. Karen was. She opened the door and chased it off. Grandma came back later, and Karen told her. Grandma didn't like what she heard. We got ready to go to sleep. We slept in the spare bedroom since it had 2 beds. One window with the curtains opened a little. We turned off the light, but there was a sound coming from on top of the roof. Pitter-patter footsteps and scratching sounds and panting. It then sounded like it jumped off onto the large plastic water barrel they had. At first we knew it sounded like barking, but as it grew louder, the other dogs seemed to be barking at something also. But all of a sudden, something was running around the house barking, and it was no dog. Nope, it wasn't. The barking sounded human, a deep male voice barking like it knew we knew it wasn't a dog. Woof, 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 ruff, ruff, arf, arf, arf. Just exactly like that, adding the W's, R's, and A's. Then, panting again by the window, and we started freaking out. Karen decided to, in my opinion was stupid, open the curtains to look out. There was the stray dogs on its hind legs looking into our bedroom, but this time it stunk, and what I thought were 2 black holes in the neck. Another pair of eyes twinkled. Think of those ugly glossy spider eyes staring at you. And the paws were deformed, looking hands with overgrown somewhat thick and sharp fingernails. Again, both screaming and shutting the curtains closed. Grandma came running through the door and seeing it. First thing she did was grab ashes from the fireplace, load 3 shells into the shotgun from under her bed, blessed herself in Navajo, and went outside to shoot it, yelling in Navajo about the thing wasn't welcomed here, and to get the hell out of here. The next day they called a medicine man to come over and put cedar in. He prayed over someone with cedar smoke and an eagle feather, blessed the place, made us eat bitter herbs called eagle's gull or something, and gave me an arrowhead. Apparently I needed to carry one for protection. Seems to work pretty well. The medicine man said that dog was a skinwalker, which in Navajo is a long word, but I call them Yoshis. The body of the stray dog, which was killed by the skinwalker, made an illusion so we wouldn't know it wasn't a real dog. He also said that Yoshis tend to harm people by using some sort of human bone straw to spit at someone. Think spitballs, only deadlier. And get human bones into them. Doctors can't detect it, but the medicine man that day pulled a piece of human skull out of Grandma's right shoulder. Pretty big, about 2 inches and 1 centimeter thick. It was real because we watched him pull it out of her. That was intense. Alright, those were just a few stories about skinwalkers. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know and leave this video a like. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Also, make sure to let me know what you think of skinwalkers down in the comments below, if you think they're real or just a Native American urban legend. Alright guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!